When the final history of the civil rights and social justice movement is written, the next speaker will be mentioned in many of his chapters. In addition to being the co-founder of the United Farm Workers with the late Cesar Chavez, she has served the people and won many victories in her various capacities as political director and contract administrator and boycott director, arbitrator, picket captain. She is currently a professor at the University of Southern California on community organizing, and she is also the president of the Dolores Huerta Foundation dedicated to community organizing, a woman who has done so much for so many, for so long, with so little credit. So ladies and gentlemen, let's correct that injustice now by giving a warm Black Caucus welcome to Dolores Huerta.
Thank you for the generous introduction. As you know, when we are community organizers, there's a lot of people that do a lot of the work, and then we are the ones that get the credit, right? And it's wonderful. I know when we think of Karen Bass, and we heard the remarks that were made about quote-unquote community organizers, right? Like they were trying to disparage Obama's work as a community organizer. I said, hey, wait a minute, we've got some great leaders that are community organizers, right? And, you know, one of our examples here, of course, is Karen Bass, who's sitting next to me, and the other people that have spoken here today. So we know that, and I think that really kind of speaks to the whole issue of campaign reform. And I think that one of the reasons why we maybe don't have more of a groundswell is that a lot of people don't really understand or not knowledgeable about this, because if they were, then we would see more of a growing demand by constituents and people out there to say, this is the only way that we're going to save our democracy. Because when we look at what's happening around us, I think it is so scary. How can we be a democracy when we have no control about what's happening around us? And when we think of, when we have our Congress, and we think, hey, wait a minute, they're not running the show. Congress is not running the show. There's other people that are running the show, and the Congress is there to kind of a cleanup committee, right? To see how they can clean up the mess that other people have created. And this has got to be so scary, because we know that all of these Wall Street investors and whatever, they're not going to miss a meal. You know, they're not going to miss a meal. And yet the people out there that are losing their homes are missing many meals, right? And who knows, the homeless population has arisen. Who would ever know that we would have so many empty houses and so many homeless people at the same time? That really shows that there's something wrong with our system. And it does start right at the bottom, as Karen said. It starts at the bottom because it's the people that are the ones that elect their representatives. And so many of our people, and especially those, the 50% that don't vote, are the ones that we need to get out there and to convince them that there is another way, and that they shouldn't become so cynical that they just give up and don't participate in the electoral process. And if we do this campaign reform, this is a way that people can participate. Because when you're talking about people being able to give $5, right, up to $100, and then we can show them that there are places where this has worked. And of course, Arizona is a place where it has worked. And I know Arizona is a smaller population, say, than California, but when you have the governor of the state of Arizona, Janet Napolitano, who was actually elected on the basis of campaign reform, and many of the candidates, the majority of the candidates now that are running in the state of Arizona are running on a public campaign platform. And so this is important. And one of the great statements by Janet Napolitano that she made, because when she signed legislation that would make it possible for them to actually purchase pharmaceuticals in bulk, and she was able to do this at a very low price for the people of Arizona. She said that, and her statement was, well, I could do this because I had become elected on a public campaign platform, and so this way the pharmaceutical companies could not kind of put this pressure on me. You know, I've been in Sacramento a lot. I haven't been there as much since Karen's been there, because she's really taking care of everybody, right? More so than before. But you'd be surprised at some of these bills that are so innocuous, and they're kind of motherhood bills. I remember one bill that we were lobbying on, and this was a bill that if you got a cell phone contract, and within 30 days after you got that contract, that you could actually cancel your contract, and you wouldn't have to pay this fee, this cancellation fee. Now, doesn't that seem just kind of logical? That if something's wrong with your phone, that you can cancel it, or the service? You would have been surprised at the telephone companies that were up there. In force, AT&T, Verizon, all of these people were up there. You would have thought, my gosh, this is something really major. And of course, they defeated the bill. You know, I mean, and it's just these little things to me that are just examples. I know there's another bill that's been going through the legislature, and some of them do get through. Of course, we've had health care reform that has passed our California legislature 3 times in a row, and yet the governor has never signed it, right? And he doesn't have to. And he doesn't have to. So I think if we let people know that they can actually control the process, and we can, as was said also, we can use this as an organizing initiative. And maybe we have to start going by cities, because there are cities in San Francisco, California, Albuquerque, New Mexico. These are cities that have actually adopted campaign reform measures that we can actually do, maybe starting with our cities if we can't do it through our whole state at once. But we can use the public campaign issue as an organizing issue. And once we explain it to people, then they can get involved. And when just an ordinary individual puts in $5 into somebody's campaign, they're invested. You know, they are going to care about, and they're going to watch, and they're going to see what that candidate does, and they're going to stay on top of that candidate, because then they own the candidate, right? Not the millionaires that purchased that seat. And that's the one thing we know. And boy, if we haven't learned anything in these last few years, you know, with the war in Iraq and now with the economic meltdown, then we haven't learned anything. And so I think our battle cry has got to be, we want to take our democracy back, and this is one of the ways that we could do it, and maybe the only way that we can do it. Sí se puede. Yes, we can, as Obama says, okay?